Ever pondered about the essence of conservatism and how it differs from a conservative stance? Welcome to our exploration of this multifaceted and often misunderstood political philosophy. It's common to conflate conservatism with a conservative stance as if they were one and the same. But they're not. Conservatism is a unique lens through which we view our social reality, a perspective rooted in tradition, stability, and measured change. On the other hand, a conservative stance is not a philosophy but a position, a resistance to change that can be found across the political spectrum. Yes, it's true that conservatism may espouse a conservative stance, but it's not its defining feature. It's like saying all apples are fruits, yet not all fruits are apples. So, the next time you hear someone use these terms interchangeably, remember, they're not synonymous. To fully grasp this, we need to delve deeper into the concept of conservatism. Conservatism, at its core, is a perspective, a lens through which one views social reality. It's a political philosophy steeped in rich tradition and history. The essence of conservatism lies in its respect for what has been, its appreciation for what is, and a prudent approach to what could be. Conservatism places a high value on tradition. It holds that the wisdom of the past, embodied in traditions and customs, is a rich source of knowledge that should guide our actions in the present. Tradition to a conservative is not just an old-fashioned idea to cling to, but a collective wisdom passed down through generations, providing a sense of continuity and stability. The conservative viewpoint also cherishes social stability. It's about fostering a society where the rules are known and respected, where individuals can plan their lives with a reasonable degree of certainty. A stable society, conservatives argue, is one where people can flourish, where they can pursue their goals and dreams without fear of sudden and unpredictable shifts in the social order. Continuity is another cornerstone of conservative thought. It's about ensuring that change, when it comes, is gradual and measured, not abrupt and disruptive. The conservative philosophy emphasizes evolution over revolution, believing that the best way to improve society is by building on what already works, rather than tearing down and starting anew. However, conservatism is not synonymous with an aversion to change. It's about believing in the value of stability and continuity, but also recognizing that change is a necessary part of life. Change, in the conservative view, should be approached with caution, with a clear understanding of its potential consequences, both intended and unintended. It's worth noting that conservatism is not a monolith. There are many shades of conservative thought, reflecting a range of perspectives on tradition, stability, and change. But at its heart, conservatism is about prudence, about valuing the wisdom of the past, about fostering social stability, and about managing change in a thoughtful and measured way. So when you think of conservatism, think beyond the caricature of an old man shaking his fist at the future. Remember, it's not just about resisting change, it's about maintaining what works. Now, what about the conservative stance? Is it the same as conservatism? You might be wondering. Well, let's dive into it. A conservative stance at its core represents a resistance to change. It's a defensive position, a desire to protect and preserve the status quo. But here's the twist. It isn't exclusive to any one political orientation or ideology. It's a characteristic that can be found across the entire political spectrum, from left to right, and everything in between. Imagine you see a group of people protesting against a new policy. They could be from any political party or hold any ideological belief, but the moment they stand against change, they embody a conservative stance. It's about the action, the reaction, the resistance. It doesn't matter if they are campaigning for workers' rights, the environment, or national security. If they are resisting change, they are taking a conservative stance. In contrast, conservatism as a philosophy is about more than just resistance. It's a way of looking at social reality, an approach to understanding the world that values tradition, stability, and gradual change over radical shifts. It's about maintaining the tried and tested, the established order, the structures that have stood the test of time. In other words, a conservative stance is about what you do, not why you do it. It's the act of resisting change regardless of the reasons behind it. It's a behavior, not a belief system. On the other hand, conservatism is about the why. It's a philosophy, a set of beliefs that guides actions and reactions. It's the lens through which one views the world, and it influences how one responds to change. In a nutshell, a conservative stance is the act of resisting change, while conservatism is the philosophy that often but not always motivates that resistance. They are intertwined, yet distinct. One is about action, the other about belief. So a conservative stance can be seen as the action, while conservatism is the philosophy behind it. So where do conservatism and the conservative stance intersect and diverge? First, let's take a look at where they intersect. Both conservatism and the conservative stance place a high value on continuity and stability. They both favor the preservation of established traditions and institutions, seeing them as the bedrock of a well-functioning society. This shared focus on maintaining the status quo is the primary area of overlap. However, this is where the similarities end and the divergence begins. Conservatism is a broader philosophy, encompassing not just an attitude towards change, but a whole worldview. It is a way of looking at social reality, as it were. It informs how one sees the world, the role of government, societal norms, and so much more. It is a lens through which one views and interacts with the world. On the other hand, the conservative stance is a specific attitude towards change. It is not so much a philosophy as it is a reaction, a resistance to change, especially rapid or radical change. It can be found on any side of the political spectrum and is not exclusive to those who identify as conservatives. So, while a person can have a conservative stance on a particular issue, that doesn't necessarily make them a conservative in the philosophical sense. Conversely, a conservative might not always resist change in every circumstance. They might, for instance, support changes that align with their broader conservative philosophy. This is where the importance of distinguishing between conservatism and the conservative stance comes into play. While they overlap in some aspects, conservatism and the conservative stance are not interchangeable. Each brings its own nuances and implications, and understanding these differences is key in navigating the complexities of political discourse. While they overlap in some aspects, conservatism and the conservative stance are not interchangeable. We've journeyed through the nuances of conservatism and the conservative stance. What are the key points to remember? Firstly, we delved into conservatism as a philosophy. It's a worldview, a lens through which we observe and interpret social reality. It encourages us to respect traditions and institutions that have stood the test of time, to value gradual progress over radical change, and to consider the complex interplay of individual liberty and societal order. It's not just about resisting change, but about scrutinizing it, understanding its implications, and ensuring that it doesn't disrupt the delicate balance of society. Secondly, we explored the conservative stance. This isn't tied to a specific political ideology, but rather, it's a general resistance to change. It can be found across the political spectrum from left to right. It's not about the content of the change, but the pace and nature of it. The conservative stance argues for caution, for taking the time to consider the potential consequences of change before rushing into it. Thirdly, we examined the intersection and divergence of conservatism and the conservative stance. They intersect in their shared caution towards change, but they diverge in their reasoning. Conservatism's caution stems from its respect for tradition and concern for societal stability, while the conservative stance's caution is more about a general resistance to change, regardless of its content. Finally, we emphasize the importance of distinguishing between conservatism and the conservative stance. Not all conservatives resist change in all forms, and not all those who resist change are conservatives. This distinction is crucial for understanding the political landscape and for engaging in nuanced, productive political discussions. So, in wrapping up, remember that conservatism is a philosophy that values tradition and gradual progress, while the conservative stance is a broader resistance to change. They intersect in their caution towards change, but diverge in their reasoning and scope. Understanding these differences can help us navigate the political landscape more effectively. Why does distinguishing between conservatism and a conservative stance matter? Well, the answer is simple, yet profound. It's about clarity and understanding. It's about making sense of the political discourse that shapes our everyday lives. In a world brimming with political debates and discussions, it's easy to get lost in the maze of terminologies. But these aren't merely buzzwords. They're concepts that shape our society, influence our decisions, and reflect our values. Understanding the difference between conservatism as a worldview and a conservative stance as a resistance to change can bring clarity to our discussions. It can help us make informed decisions, foster better conversations, and promote deeper understanding. By making this distinction, we're not just playing with semantics, we're contributing to a more thoughtful, nuanced, and informed political discourse, and that's something we can all benefit from. Remember, words matter, especially when it comes to political ideologies and stances.